All right, guys, welcome back to week 6 of the Gambling Show. I'm here with Yanni. Big win by your second team last night. How you feeling, man?
Oh, I'm feeling great. You have no idea what this fan base has been through the last few years. And I've been in the trenches with them. I'm on Giants Twitter. I've been on there for like 2 or 3 years. Yeah, it was fun. It was a rewarding experience.
I gotta say, for like a football team that probably wins like 4 games this year, I've never seen such players that are so beloved by the public and such
Bro,
excitement for a franchise, man. I think you got your quarterback though in Jackson Dart. He looks very good to me.
dude, could you imagine if Malik was healthy right now? Like the damage that dude would have been doing. Yeah, yeah, it just kills me. But very, very fun. Very fun game.
Yeah, I have to imagine right on those like fades or whatever, when you don't
Oh,
have little Jordan Humphrey out there, is probably a
oh,
marketable improvement for your team. Next year though, I guess. All right, let's just get into it. Week 5 recap. We both had weeks over 500. So like the show was reeling for a little bit. We kind of had a mild baby bounce back week last week. I'll start first with my picks. The Dolphins Panthers over 44 and a half. That was my only single bet of the week, and that hit, which is good because everything else is in a parlay. Thoughts on this game? It's just kind of what I thought, right? Like the Dolphins jumped out to a quick 17 to nothing lead on the Panthers. I was a little worried about the Panthers not being able to score enough to get this over the number. I think the total was at like 41 points, and I thought that maybe there would only just be a field goal left. Tua throws a like bomb to Jalen Waddle over the top for the touchdown. I think the total in the game was like 49 points or something. So that covers. I feel like that was good process. I'm always down to bet an over on two atrocious defenses like that were in that game. Next one was the Cowboys minus 1.5. This was one of my comfiest bets of the year, as it turned out. Justin Fields drops to 0 and 26 when his team allows more than 20 points, which is a absolutely mind-boggling stat. The Cowboys like really jumped out. I think it was like 30-6 in the fourth quarter. Then the Jets got some garbage time touchdowns, but really it was even not as close as that. I feel like that was a great bet by me, good process. Maybe attacking that trend in the future, fading the poor Jets. Then the Lions minus 10.5. This was a consensus pick of mine and Yanni's. It covered by one, like a half a point. So the Lions won by exactly 11. I think that the process was good here. The Lions like jumped out to a really big lead. The Bengals got a couple touchdowns in garbage time. With Terron Arnold, the Lions corner, went down for the game. So I think now we have to like look at this Lions team and say, hey, like they have a really bad secondary. They're really banged up, and teams are going to be able to score on them. So when you hang big numbers like this, like you're susceptible to garbage time. We just barely get out of there though. I feel like it was a good process bet. I think the Lions scored like 35 points or something. But yeah, we get out of there with a win. So I started out my entire afternoon 3-0. I was feeling really good about this parlay coming home. Then the Bills broke my heart. Outright loss to the New England Patriots. Um, I don't really have much to say about this game. I don't think the Patriots like are a better team than the Bills, right? Not that at all. I don't think the Bills did anything atrocious in this game. They mostly beat themselves with penalties, right? Like I think they got penalized 10 times. Just a bunch of weird penalties that put them too far behind the sticks. They fumbled or they had 3 turnovers, one Josh Allen pick, 2 fumbles. They just did shit to beat themselves. I do want to shout out the Patriots though, man. It was a team that I was kind of pulling for this offseason, but I didn't really believe in them so much. I think they're ahead of schedule, and I think there's actually a good chance they make a wild card this year with their schedule. Go look at their schedule, boys. I don't see many L's left for the Patriots on the slate. And then the Chiefs -3. That was another consensus pick of mine and Yanni's that was a loss. We'll save that one for him though because I took the Lions. So the way it worked out, right, is because my ticket cost was $200 and I won the single bet for $195.24. I basically just lost $4 on the week, even though it was like a winning week for me. So like obviously not moving in the right direction in the units, but I feel like just hitting one of these parlays or having a couple more smart decisions and where I'm placing my money will help. So yeah, total loss on the season so far is about $670. Season record, we're getting marginally better. It's up to 11 and 14. Just need a couple really hot weeks. Like I had a couple really down weeks in weeks 3 and 4, and we can get this thing back on track.
Yeah, so for me, I was really frustrated watching that Giants game last night because they took it to the Eagles. Now, granted, it was the Eagles without Jalen Carter and having some sort of weird emotional issues between their offensive players, but yeah, I don't regret the Saints money line bet with the Giants at all. Like I thought they were a more physical, a better football team, and I thought they'd go in there and take it to them. And five turnovers in a row, five drives with turnovers in a row, three of which occurred on the Saints side of the field. The Scadaboo fumble was a backbreaker. Um, I don't know. I don't really regret that pick. Maybe I should have looked harder at like the Dolphins Panthers over. That was a good call by Ted. Or the Cowboys, right? Both of those were really good calls. I thought the Giants were going to roll the Saints. They dropped 35 on the Eagles. I know the Eagles have not been a great team this year, and they probably gave up a little bit toward the end of the game and let them run up the score a little. But I don't know. I still don't think there's a comparison between the Saints and the Eagles. I was pretty surprised that that one blew it for the week, and it's a shame because that was the second half of my parlay. It would have been a really big hit. I would have actually been like close to the green units wise. Killed me, but that's, I mean, look, that's what we're doing. That's the way it goes. Buccaneers Seahawks over 44.5. Got a little bit of help with multiple defensive backs going down on both sides of this game. Meka Egbuka absolutely goes wild. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold is one of the most entertaining games that you've seen in like years in the regular season in the NFL. Yeah, that played out exactly like I hoped it would. That it was a high stakes game between two teams with playoff ambitions, and it was a shootout. It was awesome. Pretty comfortably hit the over. I think the over hit like per midway through the third quarter or toward the end of the third quarter. I don't even think you needed the fourth quarter for that. The Skins and Chargers. I also think I had a really good game. You know, I haven't actually missed a point total bet on the year this year. That's been like where I've been finding most of my success. I'm going to keep picking at that as the weeks go on here, assuming it still keeps working. But the Skins and Chargers under 47.5, again, to me, I was really concerned about the Chargers offense not being able to get room, not being able to move efficiently, not being able to run the ball on them. They didn't. I forget what the final what was. It 10 points for the Chargers, Ted?
Yeah, the Chargers got out to a 10-0 lead and then gave
It was
up
like
like
22 to
27
10.
unanswered.
Yeah, it was like 27-10, 22-10, something like that. Um, yeah, I don't, I, again, to me, that number felt too high. It felt too high. It was two pretty good defenses. At least the Skins play good defense. The Chargers are a good defense. Um, Pretty much what I was expecting from the game. The Lions Bengals, I don't think would have gotten that close if Terry and Arnold doesn't go down and Chase doesn't go off in the second half of it. Um, I think we had the right side of that. Maybe we did get a little lucky that it held at the end there. And then the Chiefs -3. Our big talking point about it last week was that the Chiefs don't turn the ball over, and that if the Jags live off turnovers and the Chiefs don't turn the ball over, we're going to go ahead and take the Chiefs there. And sure enough, a turnover inside the 5 yard line turns into a pick six, which means at the bare minimum, it swung the game 10 points. You know, Andy Reid's pretty live to go for it there if they're on fourth and short in the goal line. So it may have swung the game 14 points. And that was the bet. That was the bet. Um, Really a bummer there because again, I don't regret that. I would bet that 10 out of 10 times. I think the game, I don't know if it played out exactly the way we thought, but like the Chiefs came in, they gave ETN hell, they stopped the run, they forced Trevor to pass. BTJ did have his best game of the year as a receiver, and Travis Hunter actually had his best game of the year as a receiver. So like the Jags responded and Trevor Lawrence responded with rushing touchdowns. Actually made a really cool play that maybe doesn't happen if Chris Jones was trying. Um, but yeah, so I don't really, to me, that's just the nature of betting on games and the weirdness that can happen with it. I think that was really just one play, and that bet goes a completely different direction. I think if Patrick Mahomes throws a touchdown or they kick a field goal from inside the 5 instead of the pick six, they cover or at least push the bet, right? So didn't hit. I'm 4.5 units in the hole now, so I'm slowly digging my way out. My record hasn't been great, but I've hit a parlay 3 weeks in a row. Um, so I'm pretty happy with that actually because we started off pretty rough this season and I think we're coming around here. I do think we're coming around and I'm happy about it. I feel like I have a better handle on some teams. I felt good about some picks this week. So we'll see how we do.
Yeah, that's the tough part, right? Because as the year goes on, you get like I feel like a more complete read on like what the teams are going to be this year, but then they start going on by, and the slate gets smaller and the numbers get sharper. All right, week 6 picks. I will start out first. we're doing some dumpster diving again this week. I'm taking the Browns -7. I'm going back to the fading Justin Fields well. I'm taking the Browns plus 5.5. When I talk about dumpster diving, that's what I mean. I'm betting on Dylan Gabriel and the Cleveland Browns in an NFL game. I'm taking the Chargers -4.5 against the Miami Dolphins. The second half of my parlay is going to be the Patriots -3.5 against the New Orleans Saints that ruined Yanni's week last week. And then I have to do this. I feel like it would not be a gambling show this year if I did not attempt to fade the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm taking a team that I hate the most in the NFL, actually, the Seahawks, -1.5, going into the Jacksonville, flying all the way to the East Coast to beat the Jaguars. If the two-leg parlay hits, that returns $594.12. If the single games hit, actually, I messed up. You know what? Scratch everything that I just said. I messed up the calculations. I will update them after. But all you really have to know is that I'm 11-4 on the season, I guess.
Wait, what did you mess up out of curiosity?
So you see how there's three singles for
Yeah,
198.04. That
yeah.
is not other return. I think what happened is I probably added that 198.04 into the parlay. That's
All
my
right.
best guess as to what happened, but I will have
All
to
right.
consult the calculator.
Theodore will be on that little behind the scenes. That was exciting, folks. Okay, so my picks, my picks. Me and Ted are riding consensus on the Patriots -3.5 going to New Orleans because fuck the Saints, fuck them so badly after what they did to me last week. I would love to get that one back. And then I'm taking the Colts -7 at home against the Cardinals. That number was 6.5 earlier in the week, but we don't get our picks until Friday. I would have obviously loved to get the hook there, but I'm still going to go ahead and take it, get a little bit of safety with the push. The Rams, did they close at 7 or 7.5?
They closed at 7.
Okay. So got the Rams at 7, which is a better number. They were 7.5 this morning. Luckily, they pushed up to 7, so that's great. And then so I should have said this before. I'm parlaying the Patriots and the Colts, and I'm also going to parlay the Rams -7 with the Rams and Ravens over 44.5. I didn't know that there was going to be rain. I don't know how heavy it is, but it sounds like it's significant enough if it's being discussed as affecting wide receiver rankings. That's not great, but we got our picks in the morning. We ran them, and I'm going to stick with it. And that's going to be a parlay. I'm going to try to hit. This would be the third of these same game total and which side parlays I've hit this year, and it would be my fourth week with a parlay in a row if one of those two comes home. And then I've been actually leaving the one that I feel the best about as my independent bet because that's the one that technically matters the most as far as like relative return. And so I'm going to stick the Cowboys Panthers 49.5. I'm taking the over. Big number. I do think it hits though. So my parlay return 730.71. My other return 192.59. That's just the one over. Total stake $300 for a total potential return of 923.30. Hoping to work my way out of the basically $450 4.5 unit hole. 9-15-1 on the year.
All right, first one is me, and this is going to be the London game. And it's also the first leg of my parlay. I'm laying 7 with the Broncos against the New York Football Jets and Justin Fields. The betting breakdown is this: 62% of total bets against the spread are on the Broncos here, and 63% of the total dollars bet against the spread are on the Broncos here. So no real significant whale action going on. This team's records against the spread this season: the Broncos are 2-3. I believe they got a cover last week against the who they play last week. Was it the Bengals?
No, Philly. They beat
Oh,
Philly.
yeah, that's right. They beat Philly and then they also beat the Bengals. So they started 0-3 against the spread. Now they're up to 2-3. And the Jets are 2-3 against the spread this year. The Broncos have gained the 10th most yards on offense and allowed the fifth least yards on defense. And for the Jets, they rank 20th in offensive yards allowed and 22nd in defensive yards allowed. So when you're talking about these Europe games, right? We're getting a lot of them this year. I think this is going to be the third week of the season. We're getting these like 6:30
Yeah.
start games, which are not awesome as a viewer for me because I get up early and watch them and I'm dead by the end of the night. But favorites typically perform really, really well in these games. I pulled the stat. Chat GPT was not giving me the exact against the spread record, but teams with a better record this season are 16-5-1 in London. So I mean, the Jets are the last winless team in football, right? And our friend Justin Fields is 0-25 when his team allows more than 20 points, and that is bad news with this Jets defense. So that's kind of like where I start this bet, right? Like, how many points do I think the Jets can realistically put up against the Broncos? And I think, okay, what do the Jets do really well? They run the ball pretty well with Brees Hall, right? Justin Fields gets his scrambles, and Garrett Wilson is really the only relevant receiving option that exists on the New York Jets at this point in time. So the Broncos have Surtain. I believe they will just have him shadowing Garrett Wilson the entire game. That is like the worst possible matchup for a wide receiver, right? So I feel like the Jets, unless they're going to hit Mason Taylor like 10 times in the game, which is possible, right? I feel like they're going to be entirely reliant on their rushing attack, and that's only going to go. It's nice to run the ball. It's nice to establish the run, but if you're down multiple scores, I feel like you kind of have to get away from that a little bit and start like throwing to catch up. So I think this game is going to really come down to how good like Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos offense can perform against this like just really bad Jets defense. They're really terrible. So like he's kind of been a grab bag this year. He's had a couple really bad picks. He's had some bad performances. He's strung together a couple pretty decent ones the last couple weeks. The Jets have Sauce Gardner, right? So in theory, that's a tough matchup against Cortland Sutton, or I guess for Cortland Sutton. But Cortland Sutton just put up 100 yards against Quinion Mitchell, who, in my opinion, is a much better corner at this point in time than Sauce Gardner. So I feel like the Broncos are going to have success here, right? Like, and if we're really going to say that this Justin Fields trend is legitimate, right? It's like to cover 7 points, do I think the Broncos can get to like 27 or 30 points here? I think they can. I think that we're getting a little bit of value on this number just because the Broncos have been like playing weird, right? They haven't really looked right. I think they've been like a little bit below my expectations and a lot of people's expectations this year. But I feel like fading really bad teams is going to be like a really good strategy this year. And I think this Jets team is horrible, man. And I mean, like when we're talking about the Jets, right? Like do they even care anymore? Like there's trade talks going around right now for Brees Hall. It sounds like Brees Hall might be out of there for the Jets, and he's like, other than Garrett Wilson, their best player on offense. It seems like they're pretty close to punting on the year. So that's why I took it. I mean, it's not one of my like it's not my 5-star play of the week, but I think it's pretty good. I think this one will come home. What do you think, man?
So I have a couple interesting figures for it, right? For the Broncos defense, they allow the sixth fewest rushing yards in the NFL. They've only allowed 2 touchdowns on the ground this year. The New York is scoring 6.5 points per game in the first half of games this year. They average less than a touchdown per game in the first half. And then Denver leads the NFL in quarterback pressure percentage, while New York is bottom 10 in pass block rate. And then Fields only completes 32% of his passes when pressured. So it is just the worst possible matchup in terms of and then you have the Surtain on Wilson factor, right? And then a really interesting thing I found for the other side for the Broncos, they rely on explosive plays at one of the highest rates in the NFL, meaning like in terms of the percentage of their offensive yards gained, a huge amount of them are on explosives. The New York Jets are 29th in success rate allowed to opposing offenses. They allow the third fewest successful plays in any given game. However, they are sixth in EPA per play, which means they allow by a mile the most explosive chunk plays per game. So you have this really weird matchup on offense where like can Denver get their explosive like big chunks going, which have typically been going to Cortland Sutton, or they've been a Bo Nix run or a J.K. Dobbins run, right? Ingram has had some big plays, Franklin. So I don't know. I think that's really a big question, right? I'm curious which side wins out there, but dude, the matchup is so bad. It is so bad for the Jets offense going against the Broncos. Like I think it's going to come home. I think it's a pretty bad matchup. And also the two most mobile quarterbacks the Jets have faced this year averaged 55 yards rushing, and that's in Baker and Josh Allen. So like I imagine Nix is going to get pretty loose here running. So yeah, I think you have a good bet. I just am interested because chunk plays can be a little fluky. And there's like a scenario where Denver doesn't get their chunk plays and the Jets are actually pretty good down in and down out at like forcing third and long and getting you off the field unless they allow an explosive. So I don't know. Do you foresee like do you think Dobbins is going to be getting his chunks, Sutton's going to be getting his chunks, or do you think it's mostly just the Broncos defense is going to wreck Fields and the Jets and it doesn't matter?
Well, I mean,
That's what I think.
it's an interesting call, right? Like Dobbins does have a couple of explosives. It would not shock me if the Broncos have successful
Yeah.
runs like most of the game, right? Like I think Dobbins probably leaves this game averaging 4 or 5 yards a carry. But when you talk about explosive plays, I think that's a really good point, right? Because I think the main difference this year between the product Bo Nix has put on the field in his rookie year is he was hitting a lot more of those explosive plays. Like just watching the Broncos this year, there's been so many like near misses, right, to Troy Franklin down the field and Marvin Mims, that type of stuff where like it's just bouncing off their fingertips or getting really close. I mean, if there's a spot to like for a Bo Nix bounce back on those like explosive plays, this would be it, right? Like how many times did we watch last year, like the that Broncos Bengals game? You remember that one where like he was just hammering Marvin Mims down the field. Like that has been missing from the offense this year. So it is a good point. I feel like I don't know, man. I think this could be a blowout. I don't know. I don't know. It is like it's a tough game to put in London, right? Like I feel like if you want to be an ambassador for the NFL, maybe the
Yeah.
Jets aren't the best team to represent you, but I guess like Woody Johnson was like a English ambassador or something
Yeah.
for a little
He
bit.
was
So
Trump's advisor in the UK. He was our ambassador in the UK for the Trump administration.
lovely. All right, next one. I'm dumpster diving here. Taking the Cleveland Browns plus 5.5. Going to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. Betting breakdown: 41% of the total bets against the spread are on the Browns here, and only 38% of the total dollars against the spread are on the Browns. So the public doesn't like it. The whale action is like a little bit more on the Steelers here, but that's fine. I've had pretty good success this year on my fade the public picks. The Browns' season record against the spread this year is 2-3. The Steelers are 2-2 against the spread. The Browns are 27th in offensive yards gained and second in defensive yards allowed, so good defense, bad offense. And the Steelers are 30th in offensive yards allowed and 28th in defensive yards allowed, which I feel like is surprisingly high for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they're one of those turnover teams. So this one, this is my trend bet of the week here, right? Like I feel like every week I try and attack one underdog or like one trend bet, and this is it. Mike Tomlin against the spread is overall as a favorite is 83, 95, and 3. So Mike Tomlin's record, like as a favorite, is not good. This is like the is Chad and Simon so lovingly call it the rah Tomlin spot. They love betting Mike Tomlin as an underdog because his record against the spread is significantly better. And as a favorite, he usually does not cover these numbers. So historically speaking, that's a good bet. And then I'm also taking an underdog in an AFC North divisional matchup. Over the last 10 years, underdogs' records against the spread are 50 and 32 in the AFC North. So a lot of these games get like really weird and closer than you'd think, right? This is where we get killed every year betting the Ravens against the Steelers. I do like the Steelers a little bit more this year. So this isn't like any condemnation on their team, really, for me. I'm actually more of a fan this year, but I feel like stylistically this is a tough matchup for them. This Browns defense is playing really, really well. They're their defensive line is pretty savage. They're the best team against the run in the NFL. They're getting after the quarterback at a really high clip, getting a lot of hits and pressures. And on the other side, like the Steelers have Aaron Rodgers, who I love Aaron, but he's 41 years old at this point. He's not nearly as mobile as he used to be. And I feel like he could get killed by Myles Garrett and the boys here. So this to me feels like one of those games that's going to be like low scoring, right? Because it's scary placing a bet on Dylan Gabriel in his second start ever against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, right? With like TJ Watt and the ball hawks they have on that team. To me, this one feels like a heavy rush script, though, from the Browns. The Steelers have had trouble stuffing the run this year. With the big Q, Quinshon Judkins, he's really been carrying a lot of the load as like the featured back in Cleveland. I don't think the Browns win this game outright, but I think that 5.5 is too many points here. This is one of those ones like the Browns are totally live to shit their pants and the Steelers just blow them out, right? Because the Browns are an embarrassment of a franchise. Totally on the board. I just feel like the most likely outcome here is it's one of those really close, grindy AFC North games. I think the Steelers maybe win by a field goal or something, but this, man, what was the point total on this? Maybe I should have taken the under in
38,
this game as
uh,
well.
38.5.
Oh, okay, 38.5. That's why I wouldn't take the under there because to me that's a low total, but I think that's about right. There's not that many points on the board. Tough matchup for the Steelers. Denzel Ward versus DK Metcalf is going to be a matchup that happens, right? It's like outside of DK, like the Steelers really don't have that many other like highly vaunted skill position guys. You have like Jonnu Smith and the Muth and Calvin Austin and oh god, who's that other guy? Roman Wilson. Like the assignment here for Cleveland is just get pressure on Aaron, try and blanket DK the best you can, and I don't think Jalen Warren's going to have a really high success like rushing the football here. He might get his dump offs, but at the end of the day, just too many points for me. That's why I'm taking the Browns. What do you think, man?
I like the Browns defensive matchup a lot. Steelers are 31st in pass block win rate, and the Browns are first in win rate in both rush and pass on the D line. So I think Aaron's going to get hit a lot. I think Denzel Ward's more than capable of taking on the DK matchup. I'm curious, do you care at all? I know you don't think much of him as a player. This is their first game this year with both Joey Porter Jr. and Highsmith back. Highsmith is like that outside linebacker, like the Ahmad Brooks archetype of guy to throw back to an old Niner. He is sort of like an edge setter on the defense. And one of the issues that they've been having this year is teams are able to just run away from TJ Watt because they haven't had anyone on that side of the line. He's going to come in and balance out their run defense quite a bit, which hasn't, again, they hasn't been there all year. And then Joey Porter Jr., I know you're not a fan of him, but he is like a top 25 rated corner in the NFL. Should pretty effectively be able. Now, the Browns really kind of want to run their offense through Judkins and through the tight end. So like I don't even know if it really matters. And the Steelers are top 3 in production allowed to tight end this year. So to me, it's going to be a big tight end game from the Browns. I don't know if Joey Porter Jr. really impacts it, but those are like two good defenders. Do you think that matters at all? Do you think their defense against a rookie in a second start, like, do we see more of the old school Steelers here at home? They've been playing pretty good ball this year. Aaron hasn't been turning the ball over. Like, are you worried about that at all? Or do you just feel like, I could totally see this being like 9-14 is like the score of this game, or like 17 to 13. Like I feel like it's going to be one of those. Like I would actually bet the under here. I almost bet the under here for this game. So
I mean,
yeah, I'm just curious. Does that
as
matter to
far
you
as
at all?
Joey Porter is concerned, like I don't he's gonna go on Jerry Judy. Like Jerry Judy hasn't
Yeah,
been good all year, right?
yeah,
I don't think that's
yeah,
like I don't think Jerry Judy is going to be central to the game plan for Dylan
yeah,
Gabriel here. I mean, if their edge guy they're getting back like really significantly helps the rush defense, then yeah, I think the Browns are going to have a real hard time scoring. Like I said, like I think it's there's no way the Browns blow out the Steelers to me, but it is on the board that the Steelers blow out the Browns. So like this could
yeah.
be a laugher, like by all means, right? The Browns like they really kind of punted on this season, right? They're trading away players. They're like already acquiring draft picks for next year. They're just getting the rookies in there to see what they look like, right? So like by all accounts, like the Browns aren't really playing for anything, and the Steelers are playing to like maintain their like top seed in the AFC North right now. Like with the Bengals injuries that they've sustained, with like the Ravens terrible start to the year, it looks like they're going to have the year from hell, right? Like by all accounts, the Steelers should win the division. This is an important game that you have to have if you're them, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a win and cover to me. This is kind of the downside. I thought the board was kind of tough this week. I didn't really want to play any totals. I didn't see any totals that were like screaming for me to bet them. That's fine. It's just kind of like my read on it. I'm fine taking an AFC North underdog, and if it is a laugher, then I'm not. You don't lose 2 games for an embarrassingly bad read. It's only one. All right, next one is also me. You guys are getting a lot of me talking here. I'm taking the Chargers -4.5, going across country to Miami to play the Dolphins. Apparently, the betting public thinks that this is a square pick. We have 71% of total bets against the spread here on the Chargers, but only 55% of the dollars. So you're getting much more of a whale lean on Miami here. The season, Chargers record against the spread this season is 3-2, but it should be noted they are on a 2-game losing streak and have dropped 2 against the spread, so they have not been looking great. On the other side, the Miami Dolphins are 2-3 against the spread, and they've, the product on the field has looked marginally better every week since they've come out. I mean, they had a terrible loss to the Carolina Panthers last week, but like Tua has not done that like dumb shit. Like week one, I thought Tua might not finish the season. I thought he might get pulled as the starter pretty quickly. He's kind of steadied the ship a little bit. So I think that vibes on the Dolphins, they're really low right now, but it could be worse. Offensive and defensive rankings, the Chargers are ranked 12th in offensive yards gained and 7th in defensive yards allowed. And the Dolphins, not doing well on either end, 28th in offensive yards gained and 29th in defensive yards allowed. So for me, this is a great like buy low spot on the Chargers here. I think that 2 weeks ago, right before the Chargers had got sustained all their injuries and dropped all the games they did in the Dolphins, like, you take out two more good offensive performances for Tua. Like, I think 2 weeks ago, this line might have been Chargers minus 10, Chargers minus 13. Like, I think that by all accounts, the Chargers are the significantly better team. It's just they've struggled the last 2 weeks with the injuries. They dropped one to the Giants, which they shouldn't have done. Like, I guess the Giants could be frisky though. They just dropped one, Jaden in the Redskins. So vibes haven't been good, but to me, this is a get right spot for Justin Herbert against like one of the most atrocious back ends of a defense I've ever seen in the Miami Dolphins. I've been beating this drum all year, man. They're really bad. They helped me hit an over last week. They helped Bryce Young hit an over in a football game. So I just feel like the strength of this Chargers team right now, especially without Omari and Hampton, available, is going to be asking Justin Herbert to drop back and throw it a bunch. He still has Keenan Allen, Lad McConkey, and QJ, the emergent QJ out there. To me, this feels like a Justin Herbert blow up spot here, like 350 yards, multiple touchdowns. And at the end of the day, it is still Tua and the Dolphins, who historically, when they play real teams, when they when the Dolphins play winning teams, I don't have the exact record in front of me, but it is atrocious against the spread. Um, Yanni, what was that figure that you had in the primer about the red
Well,
zone defense for the Dolphins?
well, there's two of them that apply here. They're 1-11 when their opponents score more than 22 points since 2024. More than 22 points, they are 1-11. And then since 2024, Miami is 7-1 when the opposing offense converts below 55% touchdown rate in the red zone. So how they perform in the red zone really, really matters because their winning percentage drops. They are bottom four in winning percentage if they allow over a 55% touchdown rate in the red zone. So it really is going to come down to what Justin Herbert and company do when they get in the red zone.
I mean, potentially, right? Like I feel like the stats are correlated, right? Like, hey, the
Right,
Dolphins aren't
right,
winning when they're scoring, when
right.
they're allowing the other team to score a lot of points, and obviously that goes better when they're holding teams to field goals instead of touchdowns. It just feels like a tough shout for me, man, for Tua and the Dolphins to keep up here. I think the path to the Chargers not covering this, if they don't, is Herbert just getting massacred by the Dolphins defensive line, like guys like Chop Robinson or Bradley Chubb. Like it, those are good players. They're not bad players. So I mean, it's possible, but when I can fade Tua and under a touchdown with the team that I'm really bullish on for the rest of the year, it's just like it feels like a temporary struggle the Chargers are going through right now. Give me that side. What do you think, man?
What do you think about both rushing offenses in this one? So the Dolphins allow the most yards on the ground in the NFL. Do you trust Kamani Vidal and Haskins and an O line missing two, at least maybe three starters for uh for Sunday? Do you trust them to be able to run the ball? Do you think it doesn't matter because they're so bad? Like we just saw Rico Dowdle and a Panthers O line missing three starters go for 200 yards. So does it just not really matter, do you think, on the Chargers end for rushing? They also run the ball on third down at the highest rate in the NFL since 2024. So like that's a huge part of their offense is converting third downs on the ground.
Well,
Um,
when you say
like how
that,
do
I
you
think the big difference there is you're including 2024, where this team was
right.
extremely rush heavy. Now it feels like they've shifted to an extremely pass heavy offense. I don't think like it's nice that the Dolphins allow yards. I think that if the Chargers want to run it, they'll have success. But I don't know. I don't see Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal being a focal point here. And for the Dolphins on the other side, right? Like the Chargers have just gotten gashed by they got killed by Cam Scatterbo, and then Bill carved him up last week. So like in
Yeah.
theory, they're giving up a lot of yards on the ground right now, but the Miami Dolphins are not good at running the ball. They're not a good running team. They have a terrible
No,
O
that's why
line.
I'm scared. Yeah.
So I don't, you
Yeah.
know, it feels like it's going to be a passing game for me. I think this is more of a passing game script for both sides here.
I think so too. A Chain's only averaging 55 yards a game right now on the ground. Like I don't know what the Dolphins really have. I imagine they're going to try to run the ball. Um, we'll see. Also, Chargers are sixth against the pass in terms of yards allowed. Like they're a pretty stingy pass defense. And Jesse Minter, I keep calling him out all year. He's from the Mike McDonald coaching tree. They do disguised coverages. Their whole thing is to directly counter the Shanahan scheme. They do really good jobs of disguising coverage so you can't get your reads and you can't get the ball off quickly. And when Tua can't get the ball off quickly, we kind of know how that goes. I think this one comes home. It's just weird enough to me. Like I get really freaked out when the O line is decimated for a team. I all of a sudden go, I don't know what they're gonna do because like the range of outcomes becomes massive. And I know Justin Herbert's the man. He's fantastic. And I think he's gonna throw the ball 40 or 45 times this week. That's how I imagine it. Um, it's really that O line looks so, and it should look so bad. They lost two like all pro level tackles, and then Mekhi Becton's been like off and on the field for most of this year. Like it's not their fault, but I don't know. Just to me, that's enough that like I can't figure out the Chargers and I have to stay away. But in theory, I think this bet hits. It's just kind of weird, dude, with the O line injuries. I don't know.
I
I
would
don't know
have
what to
a
do.
really hard time laying 4.5 points with the Chargers until their linemen get back. If it was any team other than the Miami Dolphins,
Yeah.
this to me is more a fading Miami play than anything
Yep.
else.
Okay. So this is in both me and Ted's parlays. So we feel really good about this, which means you should bet the Saints. Patriots -3.5 going on the road to the Saints. 72% of every dollar bet has been bet on the Patriots, and 73% of the total dollars has gone on the Patriots, as opposed to 28% for the Saints, 27% on the Saints. So big public lean, not really a whale lean, but big public lean. The season record against the spread for the Patriots is 3-2. The season record for the spread for the Saints is 2-3. They've actually covered two spreads. They covered against the Bills a couple weeks ago. Um, I don't know. Do you know off the top of your head who the other cover was? I guess it would be the game they won. It would. Oh
The
yeah.
Giants.
Wait. It would
Yeah.
be the Giants last week. Great. Um, and you know what? Oh, I didn't have them. I didn't have them betting that one. Okay, good. Offensive ranking and defensive ranking for the Patriots are actually climbing. They've been doing pretty well the last few weeks. They've been weird, like up and down. It's been kind of two different teams that show up on any given day. But I certainly have noticed since Stephon Diggs came back, their offense has looked a lot better. They're 16th in offense, 18th in defense in terms of yardage gained, yardage allowed. The Saints, a lot worse, 24th in yardage gained, 17th in yardage allowed. Actually, their defense is playing like moderately respectable, which is pretty surprising. And like their offense is doing pretty well. I don't want to sell it. Like I don't think Spencer Rattler's been trash at all this year. Again, like this is my own theories. I'm out in my own head with this. I really admire Kellen Moore, dude. I love his system. I think the Eagles are hurting without it, and I think like we're seeing Kellen Moore make Spencer Rattler look like a competent quarterback. Like Spencer Rattler has significantly outplayed Jalen Hurts this year, which is absolutely wild to say, but it's true. Spencer Rattler has significantly outplayed Tua. He's probably, would you say he's played better ball than CJ Stroud
No,
this year? No,
no.
yeah, okay. That's probably too far. Kyler Murray, say he's outplayed Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray, I
Um,
think he has more high highs, right? But like the main thing Rattler's done to me is not like do shit to shoot your team in the foot, right? Like
Right. Yeah, so the Patriots have covered both of their road games this year, and then the Stephon Diggs emergence. He's posted 16 receptions for 247 yards the last two games. May is currently fifth in passing yardage to a Saints team that allows the 10th most passing yards per game. I feel really, really good. To me, I've noticed a marked difference when you have Stephon Diggs out there cranking out first downs the way he is for Drake May. And then honestly, not trying to be cruel about it, but when you get Antonio Gibson out of the rotation, because he was actually soaking up like a notable amount of the work out of the backfield for their team. Ramondre has looked competent enough, and I think Trevion Henderson is a great athlete. He actually hasn't been amazing. Like when you look at his individual performance metrics this year, he hasn't been. I just think that if you're getting work away from Gibson and you're giving it to Ramondre and Trevion Henderson, you're going to be a better unit out of the backfield. Um, their rookie left tackles looked excellent. Hunter Henry's been one of the best tight ends in the NFL this year. To me, like the Patriots offense has a lot going for them. I don't know why they struggled in the beginning of the year. Like against the Raiders, their offense didn't look great, and they've had like a couple games this year where they didn't get it right. But it feels like the big difference to me is Stephon Diggs is getting full run and Drake May has a wide receiver one, and that's been the breaking point. I have noticed a night and day difference between the offenses now. Like fifth in the league in passing is really impressive, and I think he keeps it going here. Um, yeah, I'm trying to see. Do I have any other interesting notes? Oh, Christian Gonzalez re-injured his hamstring from camp this year. So he came in, he had a hamstring for 6 or 8 weeks, I think, and then he goes and re-pulls it. And dude, that guy's been injured a lot. It's really a shame because he's one of the most talented corners in the league, like as a lockdown one-on-one. So I think there's a little bit of concern here. Does Olave get loose? It's sort of the Saints get to do what they really want to do here, which is high volume passing attack. The Patriots have been savage against the run. They're only allowing the fourth fewest rushing yards in the game. So in the league. So to me, you have a game where they're going to need to come out and feed the ball to Olave and to Shaheed, and there's going to be no Christian Gonzalez out there. I think that's like moderately worrisome, sure. Like there's a degree of that, but again, like what does the Saints offense really have if you take the rushing attack out of it? I don't know. Kendry Miller's leading the league in forced missed tackles per attempt and forced missed tackle rate, like per run. He's actually been one of the best power runners in the NFL this year. I think he's like top three. And Alvin Kamara is actually top 10 in that too, which I thought was surprising. Yeah, so I don't really know. I just think it's going to be too much. I think it's going to be too much for the Saints to try to keep up. I do think the Patriots defense is competent, and I think they've had a really like they played some good teams this year that have probably, pushed up their defensive yards allowed. I just don't see it, man. I don't know, but I did get burned last week betting against the Saints. So I guess I don't know. To me, it just felt like a really good number and a good spot because I think the Patriots can put up 24 or 28 on them, and I don't know if the Saints are going to go over 20 here. But it's certainly, to me, this is not like some slam dunk thing. I just think I'm getting a good. I don't think the Patriots are being properly priced by the market yet for what I think they can do against below average teams. So that was my main thesis of my pick. Why did you pick this one, Ted?
Well, so first of all, this is my favorite game on the board. I'm putting my stink on
Oh,
it. This is my favorite
oh,
game of the week.
oh,
I feel like so the Saints, the whole story from them this year, right? Like I thought they might be one of the worst teams we've ever seen in the NFL, like in the history of the NFL this year. That has not been the case. Like massive credit to Spencer Rattler and Kellen Moore for like putting a decent product out on the field. Like it's not a bad product, right? The issue that I have with them is they just have no one really, right? Like Chris Olave, like he's just limited in what he's able to do by Spencer Rattler. The other thing here is I feel like we have to reevaluate this Patriots team, man. I think that after that win against Buffalo, like an impressive win against like probably the AFC favorites this year, like I'm calling them a good, at least a like they're a spicy team, right? I think this Patriots team is a wild card team. In the Saints win last week, that was against a bad team in the New York
yep.
Giants that handed them the game on a silver platter by having 5 straight drives and an end in a turnover, right? So Drake May's playing some of the best football he's ever played, right? His development has been like really fun for me to watch as a fantasy bag holder and just like a fan of the guy, right? He accounts for like over 70% of his team's total yards, right? This is a Drake May football team. Stephon Diggs' emergence, like as being like a go-to guy, I think that really helps. And the other thing that I think is going to be fun to watch, right? Do you know who the defensive coordinator is for the New Orleans Saints?
It's not Dennis Allen, right? He's in Chicago.
No, it's that tier of coach though.
Oh, it's Brandon Staley.
Yes. So
Yeah.
The Patriots are going up against a Brandon Staley defense that plays cover four at the highest rate in the NFL. They don't really disguise coverages or anything. They just kind of sit back and zone. I really like the Josh McDaniels matchup here. I think that like he's gonna have some plays to attack like a very bland Brandon Staley defense.
No,
Three and a
no,
half.
no. To be fair, you've hated on Brandon Staley for years. He's leading a pretty average unit to the 17th ranked defense in yardage allowed. Like, that's pretty good. Isn't that not terrible?
I think the Patriots hang like 28-30 here, man.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think this is a laugher. I'm trying to think. Would I have laid 7 here? I don't think I would have laid 7, but 3.5 feels entirely too short to me. I think this is a levels game for the Saint. If they covered this number or
Yeah.
were even competitive, I would be shocked. The Patriots are here, boys. I cannot wait for the. I think like all right. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, Yanni. Like, what is like the best case scenario for a Patriot season to you now that we've seen what we've seen?
Well, so remember, coming into the year, I thought they would like compete for 9-8. Like, I thought that would have been a pretty good showing from them. Like, maybe stayed live for the wild card until the last week or two. But now that they've won a couple games that were kind of difficult on their schedule, and like when I look at the rest of their schedule, dude, I think they're live for double digit wins, which is pretty crazy. And like even like not just double, like they might be live for 12 wins. Like the schedule's that easy. I
Yep.
went and looked this week. I could not believe what they're dealing with here. And obviously they have the Bills one more time, and I forget they had a couple other tough games, but to my count, they have 2 to 3 tough games left on their schedule. So if yeah, I mean if they come out, so the only thing that I wonder about, just because we've seen such variance from them so far this year, right, is like they're really young. They're really, really young, and even like there's just not a lot of like veteran, old school veterans, and certainly not a lot of like championship metal on that roster. They don't have like Super Bowl winners they've gone out and signed. They're relying pretty heavily on a bunch of young guys who are pretty unheralded. And I just wonder if that means we're going to see some up and down, like some playing down to their opponent's level, playing up to their opponent's level, because like they're young, right? They're getting hyped. You could also argue that Bills game, like an away game against the Bills, is their peak moment of the season. Do we see a little bit of a come down here? I don't. I'm just a little bit worried about. I think there's a degree of emotional fragility you have to bake in because of their age. So that's the only thing that I'm wondering. And we've seen it this year. We saw them play down to the Raiders level, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean this is the first game of the year, right? And the
Right.
Raiders actually
Right.
had Brock Bowers available.
Yeah.
Turns out Brock Bowers might be worth like 5 points to the spread for the Raiders
Right.
going forward.
Yeah.
And I think that when you talk about right, like a young team without like the veteran presence or a lot of veteran presence, I think that that's what Mike Vrabel does, right? He's more of like a CEO type of dude. Like I think regardless of the Trevion Henderson usage, he's done an awesome job here. I really like what the direction he has this team going in, like night and day between Gerard Mayo, Gerard Mayo and Mike Vrabel. I think at this point, I think the Patriots are live to get the 5 seed, like which would
Oh
be the
yeah.
first wild card slot, and then go into like one of these teams that like wins the division. Like I think they could
Jacksonville.
get the 5 seed. They could like go to Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers. Like I think they could play in a
Yeah.
divisional like playoff game.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
They totally could.
Like I don't think they can actually like make a real run or beat like any real teams, but I think this team is way ahead of schedule of
Oh yeah.
where I had them
Yep.
coming into the year for sure. All right, guys, it's time for my weekly fade the Jaguars pick. I'm taking the Seahawks -1.5, going to Jacksonville, flying cross country to cover this number. Fun fact for the gambling people: this number was hanging at Seahawks as 1.5 point underdogs all week. And right before I like made the pick, the Seahawks moved to 1.5 point favorites, but it didn't really go through a key number. I don't care. I'm still taking it. Um, the betting figures: 66% of total bets against the spread are on the Seahawks here, and they're getting 82% of the total dollars. So this is like a whale play. Whales are investing in the Seahawks side here. Season records against the spread: the Seahawks are 3-2 this year. They just dropped one to the Buccaneers, but I feel like they looked pretty good there, man. I not much for moral victories, but when your quarterback is Sam Darnold, like I think that was a good one, right? Like I remember coming into this year, I was like, is Sam Darnold even better than Geno Smith? I think the Seahawks smashed that decision that they made to move off Geno Smith and get Sam Darnold in the building. The Jaguars are 4-1 against the spread this year, with their one loss coming to Jake Browning and the Bengals. Um, the Seahawks offensively have gained the ninth most yards, and they're giving, I guess they're ranked 16th in defensive yards allowed. Then for the Jaguars, they are 15th in offensive yards gained, so like middle of the road. And then the defense that everyone is calling legitimate is 23rd in yards allowed, which it's a lot of yards for a legitimate defense to me. So when I look at this game, right, like I think those figures are important. The Jaguars, like they're giving up a lot of yards, and they've been super feast or famine when it comes to turnovers. They are the 27th ranked pass defense, so giving up a ton of yards in the air. And you have Sam Darnold coming off one of his best games of the year, right? I think the Seahawks pass pretty much when they need to here. The Jaguars, they rank, I think they're 13th in yards allowed rushing.
Yep.
That's like middle of the road to me. I know they have players on their defensive line that have been playing well, like Josh Hines Allen. Turns out he's a pretty good player. But with that outside zone scheme, I feel like the combination of Charbonnet and Ken Walker, they're pretty good players, man. I feel like they should have some success here. So I feel like the Seahawks driving the ball down the field, they should be able. I don't see them getting stopped a bunch, right? And on the other side, like for the Jaguars, they're going up against a banged up Seahawks unit. They're going to be missing the Seahawks are going to be missing Devon Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen in this game. I mean, Witherspoon's only played in one game this year. He played in that Cardinals game, and then Tariq Woolen's kind of been bad. So I mean, they are banged up. So the Jaguars, in theory, have a nice matchup here against the secondary with guys like Brian Thomas Jr. Like it's an attackable matchup, but you have Mike McDonald, who's like a master of like disguising his coverages and blitzes and where his pressures are coming from, versus Trevor Lawrence, who, while I mean, he's a 4-1 quarterback this year, I guess. I don't trust him to be able to diagnose a defense well or deliver the ball to Brian Thomas Jr. here. Like he hasn't all year. I don't know why it would change in this spot. The Seahawks are, I think they're second or third in rush yards allowed this year. The Jaguars, that's kind of been what their bread and butter has been, like with the Liam Cohen rushing offense. I feel like it's going to be a point of emphasis to stuff ETN here and like force Trevor to try and beat them. If I'm a defensive coordinator, what I want to do is force Trevor Lawrence to try and beat me, because he hasn't really shown in a very long time that he's an above average quarterback. To me, like, all the Seahawks really have to do to cover this number to me is just not make stupid mistakes turning the ball over. Has Sam Darnold in his career shown that he will absolutely get loose with the ball and shit his pants at any given point? Yeah, he has. But this is a process bet for me. I'm not going to just assume that this Jaguars team keeps turning the ball over at like one of the greatest clips in NFL history. I don't love what the offense is doing. I get that it feels fun for Jaguars fans, right? You got a new head coach in there you're excited about. Liam Cohen's kind of spitting piss and vinegar. He's threatening to fight Robert Saleh. Like the vibes are good over there. It just feels like too tall of a task for me in this spot. Give me the Seahawks -1.5. What do you think, man?
They're averaging almost two turnovers a game, which is crazy. Um, Yeah, so a couple interesting things. I thought this was just a fun like nugget. The Jaguars are the number one passing defense against pre-snap motion receiving plays, which is just, in like the Shanahan Kubiak scheme, like they actually rely on that pre-snap motion a lot. I don't know who the Jags DC is. I think he's like some relatively unknown guy that Cohen brought with him. But he's like been doing a pretty damn good job this year. So that's just sort of an interesting matchup. But the Jags also allow the most receptions of 20 plus yards in the league since 2024, and JSN has been going off with the chunk plays this year. So I think JSN's just gonna go nuts this week. And then I'm curious, who do you think wins out? The Hawks are bottom 10 in pass yards allowed this year. Their top two corners are down. They have like multiple other safeties too that are on the injury report. I don't know if they're going or not. Um, but then the Jags have not really been able to move the passing game efficiently through the air. So you're correct too. The Seahawks are the third best rushing defense in the league. They've been absolutely destroying the rush, and that is ultimately the bread and butter of what the Cohen system is. And especially with Trevor Lawrence, like he has not been pushing the ball outside the numbers. And when he has, he hasn't been accurate. Or when he tries to throw an in-breaking deep routes, those things that Mac Jones and BTJ feast on, he's been getting Brian Thomas Jr.'s head knocked off to the point where he's yippy. Like he can't get out there and make his plays, right? So do you think it seems like on paper, 2 to 3 corners down, already allowing top 10 most passing yards in the league to Brian Thomas Jr. and a top 2 taken wide receiver rookie? It seems to me on paper, this looks like an explosion spot for the Jaguars passing game on the outside with the receivers. But I don't really know if based on what we've seen from Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. and Trevor this year, if they can execute that.
Yeah,
So
as long as Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars, until proven otherwise, I'm not going to assume he's going to be able to do that. And
okay.
Travis Hunter is just not running routes, right? Like they're still trying this 50-50 shit with him. I cannot wait to see Travis Hunter try and lock up Jackson Smith the Jigba. I don't think that will go well for him.
Okay, my turn to talk a lot. I am taking a big number. I am taking -7 on Daniel Jones, Indiana Jones at home against the Cardinals. 30 or 69% of every bet has gone for the Colts. 74% of every dollar bet has gone for the Colts against the spread. So the public and the whales pretty heavy on the Colts here, and I think for good reason. I think for good reason. The Colts are 4-1 this season against the spread. The Cardinals are 2-3. And then the Colts offensive ranking, they are currently the 4th most prolific offense in the NFL and the 14th best defense. They're kind of middle of the road. A big part of that is just because like they're able to do so much ball control with the rushing. They're able to get ahead and let their pass rushers cut loose. They went and got Ward from the Charvarius Ward from the Niners. They actually got they have like multiple former Niners. I think Sam Womack is still in their secondary there. Like they have some talent on defense, but that's not really their like. I know they took the first round pick last year, the D tackle or D end. Might be a hybrid guy. But the Colts have been pretty good. I don't know if I think a lot of that is situational football and also like they've played teams like the Dolphins, come on. But the Cardinals have not been good. They have been the 26th best offense, 21st best defense. And to me, like I have watched a lot of Cardinals because they've happened to have been playing teams I'm going against in fantasy, or they've been in a couple primetime games, or they played the 49ers this year. I've had a couple like bets that have interacted with them, so I've been keeping an eye on them, and it's been an atrocious on-field product. Like what we have gotten out of them this season has been brutally difficult to watch. I really have not enjoyed it. I can't imagine how Cardinals fans are enjoying it. And the Colts, it's kind of the opposite. Like to me, it looks like Daniel Jones has genuinely turned a corner, both from his ACL that was 2 years ago. It generally takes you take 1 year playing 80, 85%, sometimes 90%, and then the next year you're back to 100. I think we're seeing that with Javonte Williams this year. I think we're seeing that with Daniel Jones. Like return to play timetables, and those are real things. And I think Daniel Jones looks much healthier to me, but he's not. It's not even that he's like moving around and running a lot. Like he looks really good from the pocket. He looks like if you give him a competent system, if you give him competent weapons, if you give him a really good running game, it looks like he's able to competently run an offense. The last time he had that, he went to Minnesota and he won a playoff game there, right? So I think I'm actually I basically I kept saying, right, I wanted to see how they did against the Rams. That was a really big thing for me before I was willing to say, like, I think this is a competent football team that's capable of beating up on bad teams. I do think this is a competent football team that's capable of beating up on bad teams. The Cardinal dude, like, I don't know. What are you going to do to Jonathan Taylor? Now, what's sort of interesting about the Cardinals defense is they're actually top 10 against the run, which was pretty fascinating to me that in the midst of all their garbage, they're top 10 against the run, but they give up the 4th most passing yards. And the Colts are 4th in passing. I don't think how they've done against the run matters this year with Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is a fucking alien, right? And he's having one of those alien seasons. Also, traditionally, for like 5 years running, the Cardinals cannot cover tight ends, and Tyler Warren is just a beast. Someone said he's like if Jeremy Shockey and George Kittle had a baby during the rookie draft, and like I kind of thought that was ridiculous to say because those are two of the best to ever do it. So far, he's at least looking like he may be on that trajectory if he keeps it up. I mean, really, he's running the ball on the goal line. Just a fantastic player. They tried a pass with him, a rollout pass with him last week. And then the other thing, Kyler is probably playing with a insert in his shoe. He has, I think, a midfoot or like an ankle thing. He has some weird issue that Dr. Jesse Morris on Twitter was saying like may really limit his mobility. I cannot imagine a defense that allows the 12th fewest passing yards per attempt as it is in the NFL in passing Kyler Murray's what, going to sit in the pocket and have to dissect them as he hands the ball off to Michael Carter and Amari DiMercado and Bam Knight. So like that's what the task is here. And Charvarius Ward is not a fast corner, but he's very good with these physical guys. Like Niners fans will remember he used to have some really good battles with DK Metcalf on the outside. So Charvarius Ward, I think, is a pretty good cover matchup for Marvin Harrison Jr. And I just, dude, that is a tall task. If the Cardinals cannot run the ball against the Colts, and again, the Colts defense has been pretty solid this year, and they're running the ball with Michael Carter and Amari DiMercado and Bam Knight, and Kyler Murray can't move. To me, I think there's real blowout potential here. Like I'm wondering if the Colts aren't going to go out there and hang like 45 on their head. Um, yeah, Michael Pittman Jr. Turns out when you have a broken back, you don't play as good a football. Josh Downs, multiple hamstring injuries in the offseason, came around and got 8 targets last week. Looked pretty good. Adonai Mitchell is dead to the football world. He's done. It's over. Uh, Pierce was in concussion protocol. I don't know if he cleared it, but he's been in concussion protocol like 3 weeks. That's kind of scary. I don't know what's going on there. But honestly, I think Josh Downs, Pittman, Warren are more than enough to anchor the receiving core. I think this game's going to be pretty ugly pretty quickly. I was surprised it stayed at 7. I expected with the news that Kyler was questionable, almost out, and then if he plays, he's playing with a foot insert, with a shoe insert. I expected the line to balloon a little bit. It moved from 6.5, which obviously I would prefer you're getting the hook, to 7, but I'll still take it at 7.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I feel like if Kyler Murray doesn't go, I think this is an auto win, right? So
Yeah.
that's a good point. I didn't really consider him playing with the insert in his foot and like not having the same mobility, which I probably should have. I was more looking at whether or not he was playing. Because I think that if Kyler Murray is not mobile, he does not sit there and dissect you. That's just not what he does,
Mhm.
right? The reason I stayed away from this one is I feel like even though that was like the stinkiest possible performance you could ever get from a football team and what the Cardinals put out against the Titans last week, like they had been competitive in pretty much every game they had been in before this, and like
Yeah.
the main I guess knock against them was that just situationally they were terrible, right? So when you're picking a team like and you're laying 7 points, it's like all right, like this is more of like a complete mismatch, and it's like Danny Dimes getting 7. So I was like, I don't know, like that's why it was a stay away from me. But like if Kyler Murray's limited, right, and you make a good point, like that. This is another thing I overlooked, right? Like no, you don't have James Conner in there, and you don't have Trey Benson in there. Like they're down to like a guy who was on the practice
Full
squad two
strength.
weeks ago for like
Yeah.
50% of their offense. I think you have the right side here actually, and after hearing you talk about it, I feel like this was a miss from me. Like if I could do it over again, I'd probably throw this one in there instead of like the Browns. But you know,
Do you think do you think it matters at all? It's sort of an interesting dynamic that Steichen and Gannon were on the Eagles staff together for a year. They know each other really intimately. Do you think like Gannon being the defensive mind that he is and getting embarrassed on national television this week, he's probably pretty motivated. Do you think that maybe gives him an edge where they can go in there and hold the Colts to 20? Maybe you sneak into like, at that point 21-20, 23-20, maybe they win and cover. I think that's possible. Like I'm curious. I get, they know each other really well. They spent a year and a half on a coaching. I think longer than that. I think they were in. I think those guys were like on Sirianni's staff for a while. I think maybe I'm making that up, but they've known each other for years. I wonder, do you think the familiarity matters here?
um, it might, right? Like to me, if Jonathan Gannon would like to keep his job, the Cardinals need to put out a good performance here, right? It's just
Yeah.
based on how that was
Um,
last week, like getting fined, like we got
yeah.
we got some bleeding hearts saying that he shouldn't be smacking players in the chest on the sidelines after they make critical errors. Like so, I think the Cardinals team is going to be motivated, right? And this is like one of those historical like gamblers like to talk about this like the bounce back spots coming off like embarrassing losses, right? Usually a good time to like bet them as an underdog. But I just
Yeah.
feel like with the skill positions that the Colts have, like specifically Jonathan Taylor, right? Like the Cardinals don't have that many guys in the secondary, and like they're stronger stopping the run, but you're asking them to stop Jonathan Taylor. That seems like a very tough task for me. So like maybe it helps marginally, but like good scheme is still good scheme, And Shane Steichen has finally got like a quarterback that's able to run the system that he wants to run. I still really like the side though. I think yeah, I'll this is the first time I think all year I've said like I just totally whiffed on this, and I think you got a really great one.
Okay, like I said, I wish I knew about the weather before this one. I still feel pretty good about it. I really do. Um, the Rams getting -7, going to the Ravens, and I'm also parlaying that with the over 44.5. I have hit two of these this year, looking to hit my third one. Again, dude, like I was really panicking when I couldn't find bets in the first 2 or 3 weeks, and I kind of found this thing that's been working for me. So maybe I'm trying to run it into the ground. We'll see what happens here. But I actually feel tremendous about both of these if the weather was clear. I don't like that there's this other thing thrown in. And again, if I had known about it, maybe I would have stayed away. But like Ted said too, the slate actually was kind of hard this week. I didn't see a lot of ones I loved, and I immediately went to the over here at 44.5. And then I thought, well, if I'm betting the over, I'm doing that because I think the Rams could hang 35 to 40. If I think the Rams can hang 35 to 40, I should probably take them at a touchdown too, right? That it's a correlated thing. So that's what I'm doing. 69% of every dollar bet against the spread has gone on the Rams. 83% of total dollars bet on the spread have gone against the Rams. The season record for the Rams against the spread is 3-1. The Ravens are 1-4 against the spread. And then the over/under record, the Rams have hit the over 3 out of 5 games, and the Ravens have hit the over in 5 out of 5 games. And it's important to understand why. The Ravens have hit the over in 5 out of 5 games because other teams have been blowing their backs out on national television multiple times in multiple ways. Like, dude, it's not even like it's pick your poison or whatever. And again, this is not fair to compare. They've lost their starting quarterback. Mark Andrews is a shell of himself. Derrick Henry has not been playing good ball. They had multiple alignment injured, and they're missing. They're like second or third in the NFL in rookie snaps. The reason they are is they essentially had to take their rookie draft class that should have been a mix of practice squad players and special teams guys and throw them into starting positions because they've had so many injuries. It's just a mess from a like cluster injuries and unit injuries. I really and they've had a really tough schedule because they were a really good team last year. But like dude, you're getting the hammer here. The Rams had a horrific loss in terms of their season outlook, in terms of how the game played out, in terms of who they lost to. The Niners, a practice squad, beat them on a standalone national game where they've now had 10 days to relax, and they're coming in to play Cooper fucking Rush with the 10th ranked defense on the Rams and the second ranked offense going against the 31st ranked defense and 23rd ranked offense in the NFL. And that's 23rd ranked with multiple Lamar Jackson games. This is Cooper Rush in there. Looks like Prince Harry, old Cooper Rush. The Ravens currently allow the third most passing yards per game in the NFL, going against Matt Stafford, who's second in the NFL in passing yards per game and is throwing to Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, who probably right now, I would say, because Joe Burrow's down, would you say that's the best wide receiver tandem in the NFL? It's got to be, right? Like, I guess you could say A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith in theory.
They're
That's got to be
producing
good.
by far the best as a 1-2 punch. Like
Yeah.
whether or not they're the most talented, I think they're easily top 3 or 4. Like they're in
Yeah.
that conversation. They're elite.
Maybe like Kendrick Bourne and Ricky Pearsall are in the conversation. But look, man, the Ravens also, here's the fun thing. They allow the third most passing yards. They allow the fifth most rushing yards per game. That's part of why all 5 of their overs have hit. So the Rams are going to go in there. The Rams, like Kyron Williams was going off against the Niners, who actually have been a pretty stout rushing defense to this point this year. I would not, again, weather permit. If it's really heavy rain, I might take the L here, and that is an act of God, and you accept those things when they happen. But weather permitting, dude, I think the Rams could go for 45 here. Like if they just keep passing the ball, even if they start running the ball, like Corum's a pretty good runner, and the Ravens have been that bad. I wouldn't be surprised if just on the ground they get 3 touchdowns this week, 4 touchdowns this week. And then on the flip side, I think this game's pretty quickly going to flip to a passing script for the Ravens. I don't think Derrick Henry's going to be able to get the ball. I don't think he's going to have a good week like in fantasy. I think he's benchable this week if you have to. And then you have this Rams cornerback core that has been really bad. The Rams cornerbacks this year are actually like a really terrible unit and have been very gettable through the air. Zay Flowers is playing like from an individual efficiency standpoint, like in terms of just him in a vacuum, reception, perception, those kind of things. He has been absolutely dominating. He's really experiencing a third year breakout. We just haven't really noticed it because Lamar hasn't been out there enough. But Zay Flowers has been tremendous. DeAndre Hopkins is competent. I forget the other rookie's name there is pretty good. Rashad Bateman has been a man beater over the years. So if they get behind, I trust the Ravens to score 14, maybe 17, maybe 21, but that's a little bit of a stretch. But 14 to 17, like garbage time trailing points, 44.5 is not a crazy number. So if they can get up to 14, I need the Rams to hit 31. If they can get up to 17, I need the Rams to hit 28. I think that's very 28-17 for a team that has had 5 games go the over this year. To me, is very comfortable. Like I was happy to get that number. I'm happy to take it. Maybe Derrick Henry breaks one and helps me a little bit or something. Um, but yeah, Matt Stafford's playing some of the best football of his career, which is absolutely astounding. Coming off a back injury at whatever he is, like 39 years old. Puka Nakua looks like one of the best receivers in football. I am a little offended with this talk that he is the best receiver in football. We did this with Cooper Kupp a few years ago. These guys he's in an incredible role. He is in the best role in the NFL. Do you know what Justin Jefferson would do? If you took Justin Jefferson and you put him with the Rams with McVay and you had him run that route tree that Puka runs, do you have any idea the production, or like Jamar Chase? Could you imagine? Like I wouldn't actually include CeeDee Lamb in that, but maybe even like Garrett Wilson, I think would be like a whatever 2,000 yard receiver for Sean McVay. But still, incredible player, absolutely incredible player. He is like to me looks like a better version of what Cooper Kupp was for Sean McVay. I think this thing's going to be bad. I think it is going to be bad, and it's sort of interesting that the Ravens are still favored to win the division because they're going into next week with a bye. They should get Lamar back. They should get Lamar back week 8. They're probably going to sit him next week, I would imagine. Or no, next week's the bye. They're sitting him this week. He will be back week 8, but until then, I think they're going to be served up like a warm pudding. What do you think about the game, Ted?
Well, here I think this is a smash if it was in SoFi in a dome, right? The rain freaks me out a little bit. I was taking a look while you were talking, like just looking at like the Rams results this year, right? One thing that I've
Yeah,
noticed about the team is they don't really blow out a ton of teams. Like who they play? The Texans week 1, that was like a 5-point win, right? They lost to the Eagles. They only beat the Colts by 7. They lost to the Niners. They've gone over 31 time this year against the Tennessee Titans. So
right.
it feels like they almost gain more yards than they score points, right? But the good news is this Ravens defense is so banged up, like, and bad right now. It's stylistically a great matchup, I
Yeah,
guess. I don't think they should have an issue scoring. I think that if they need to establish it with Kyron Williams in this one, they will. I just worry about the other side with the Ravens, right? Like, because if it's raining and it's harder to throw the ball, you can't get
yeah,
Derrick Henry going against like a pretty good rush defense in the Rams this year. It's like, all right,
yeah.
Cooper Rush, like go out there in the rain and like throw like 35, 40 times here and keep us competitive. To me, I like the Rams -7 more than I like the over, just because I think the Ravens could just completely poop their pants here. But at the same time, if the rain is light or it's not as much of a factor, the Rams could go over that number on their own potentially. I like it. I just wish we had better weather. Like this is like the type of game where the all football should be in a dome people will point at and be like, all
Oh,
football should be in a dome.
dude, I'm one of those. I cannot fuck. Could you imagine if Stephen Curry in the NBA Finals? They were like, "Hey, it's the NBA Finals, man. He's out there slipping and eating shit on his 3 points because there's for some reason we're playing in the snow." It is this. Imagine like a championship MMA fight where these guys are rolling around in like in rain. It is ridiculous to me that football is played outdoors. I don't care about tradition at all. It is not an outdoor sport. It should not be an outdoor sport. People fucking get hypothermia sitting in the crowds because they're getting blasted with snow and rain. You and I went covered in like body condoms to a 49ers game where we could have paid a third of the price for the tickets if we had just waited till the stupid weather report came out. Remember that?
Yep.
We overpaid by like a combined $500 to go to a game. Yeah, I don't know, dude. That does drive me absolutely nuts. Every new stadium, it should be mandated that every new stadium built is an indoor stadium. But conversation for another
I
podcast.
love the snow games. The rain games kind of
Of course
suck,
you do.
but the snow games are fun.
No, of course you do.
dude,
Yeah.
like Jameis going out there in the snow last year, like you cannot tell me that was not an all-time Jameis Winston moment.
It's not worth the destroyed games, the graveyard of games that have been sacrificed to weather games. Ugh, ugh.
Well, hopefully it's not
Watching
too big of a factor in this one for you, so your parlay
ugh.
hits.
Yeah, I wish I knew. I wish I knew, dude. I got to it late. Okay, and God forbid we get a report of rain in this game before the end of the week, but with how my luck has gone this year, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm taking the over 49.5 for the Panthers hosting the Cowboys at home. 35% of total bets on the game have gone on the over, but 59% of every dollar bet on this game has gone on the over. So that is a pretty massive big money lean that this thing goes over. And for good reason. The Cowboys are the worst defense in the NFL and the best offense in the NFL. The over/under record, though, for the Cowboys surprisingly is 3-2. They actually have not hit the over in 2 games, and same for the Panthers. They're 3-2 this year. But look, 60% between the two teams, I will take it. And then the hilarious figure that cracked me up when I was pulling it today: the offensive rank for the Cowboys is 1, the defensive rank is 32. The offensive rank for the Panthers is 21, but the defensive rank is 12. They've actually played like decent defense this year. Sneakily, they have been putting together a pretty good defensive season. It looks like they have something to build on that side of the ball, but cluster injuries on the O-line and Bryce Young. I think it's been over exaggerated, honestly. Like Bryce Young's performance this year, he's like been a mid-level quarterback, but he's also done some really bad, like big bad plays. But they haven't been consistent, meaning for the most part, he's been just like a mid-level quarterback. He throws a pretty catchable ball, middle of the road and catchable ball rate. Most of his air yards are catchable. He's been all right. It is pretty rare that I would go ahead and smash a Panthers over 49.5 just because of the way they've been doing this year. But the Cowboys D is 21st against the rush. They've given up 8.4 yards per attempt against the pass. I think that the Panthers are going to be able to absolutely open it up on the Cowboys here offensively as much as they're capable of doing. They're not really an open it up offensively team. Like that's not their thing. But I think Ted McMillan is going to have all the room in the world. I think Hunter Renfrow and Leggett are pretty dog water like receivers. They get Jalen Coker back this week. Jalen Coker last year quietly in individual metrics was a really damn good football player. I think that means all the difference in the world. They probably shouldn't have let Adam Thielen go, and I don't know why Minnesota traded a 4th-round pick to have him put up 40 yards while he was there, but who knows? I love the idea of Jalen Coker and Tetero McMillan as this tandem at wide receiver. Look pretty good. I think Rico Dowdle revenge game. Did they find something with their run game that they didn't have before? I think it was probably just that Miami's pretty terrible against the rush, but Dallas is pretty terrible against the rush. So if they can get the run game going and then start working their receivers, I wonder if we finally get the Tataroa breakout game we've all been waiting for. You'll see a lot of victory laps on social media. If it happens, it's probably more of a Dallas Cowboys statement than a Tataroa McMillan statement, unfortunately, if he goes off this week. Because I'd love to victory lap that. He's like my favorite draft pick in fantasy this year. But the Cowboys just are that bad. But that's why you bet the over here. That's why you bet the over here. To me, it's like, I think if they have any over or unders that are under like 51.5 or 50.5 with the number 1 ranked offense and 32nd ranked defense in yards, you probably should just keep betting the over on their games. I know they've only hit 3 of 2. That's surprising to me. Them and the Eagles week 1 was kind of a weird matchup. It was 24-20. So that one hit an under there, which was surprising. I don't recall off the top of my head what their other under was. I know they just had an 80-point showdown with the Packers the other week. Like to me, this just seems like a blow up spot. Also, Carolina runs one of the highest rates of single high safety defense in the league. The single best receiver this year against single high safety is a Mr. George Pickens. He gets a tough matchup, right? Horn is a pretty damn good cornerback in the Panthers, and the Panthers have been pretty good against wide receiver ones this year, but Waddle just went off against them for the same reason, because they hang that safety back there and it allows them to work one-on-one with the corner. And their running game is too good. You cannot sit back and cover 2 zone with Javonte Williams the way he's been playing, right? He's been absolutely punishing teams on the ground, which is why George Pickens has gone off so much. They can't sit there and hang a safety over the top of him and put one over the receivers. They just can't afford to do that with the way Javonte's running, and the Panthers have been gettable on the ground. I don't think the Cowboys are going to have any issue moving the ball here. I feel very good about the Cowboys putting up 28 to 31 points here. So then the only question is, can the Cowboys or can the Panthers muster up 3 touchdowns? I don't. 28 even seems. I feel pretty good about 31 plus, right? So can the Panthers muster up 18 points on their end, 19 points to cover? I think they can. I think the Panthers can go out there and get 3 touchdowns. And I think if the Panthers need to chase points in this one, Ted McMillan and Jalen Coker are at least capable of doing that in theory. We have not seen everything click this year yet, but there's also been some really weird game scripts, like against the Falcons, where they started blowing them out and Ted didn't catch a pass for 26 minutes or 28 minutes in the game. Um, Last week was really weird because he got PI'd in the end zone and he had like 60 or 70 PI yards in the second half, but those don't really count. I don't know. Does it all come together this week? I think we have a good chance of it. Does Rico Dowdle revenge game today go off? Possibly. The Panthers haven't lost at home yet this year, have they?
Nope, they are undefeated at home.
Undefeated at home. I think if you're ever going to see a ceiling game from this Panthers offense, it's going to be against the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL. So pretty comfortably taking the over 49.5.
No, I will lead with this. I like the Cowboys -3 significantly better than the over in this game. It's not. I'm not saying that I don't like the over, but based on everything you said, right? I agree. I don't think the Cowboys are going to have any issue here. I'm not worried about J.C. Horn in any capacity if he just got torched by Jalen Waddle. I don't think the Panthers' rush defense is very good. I don't think that defense is very good at all. So yeah, that I prefer the Cowboys -3 as a play here. If I was picking over or under, I guess I would go over. I think it's mildly concerning, or not even mildly concerning, extremely concerning to me that the Panthers are missing their starting center, right guard, and right tackle. The entire right side of their line is gone. I know that there's a lot of excitement from the fantasy community about a one Rico Dowdle in the revenge game here.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
that there are people online that are saying that it's Rico's job now. It's Rico's job now. Chuba's not a factor. I think missing Chuba
Yeah.
Hubbard is a big deal in this game. I think that Rico might have a hard time getting going. I don't think Rico rushes for 200 yards here. I think that there is a chance the Cowboys stuff Rico, and that it's Bryce Young behind a banged up line. Here's another hot take that we'll see how smart this seems in 3 weeks. I think we're about 3 weeks away from Bryce Young not being the starting quarterback of the Carolina Panthers anymore. To me, what I've seen on the field is extremely concerning. He's looked like trash to me, and he was able to come back last week against one of the worst defenses we've ever seen in the Dolphins. The Cowboys also fit into that shitty defense category, so it's possible. I just think it's more likely the Cowboys blow them out by like 20 versus the Panthers like getting you enough points to hit the over here. I still like it though. As a second fan of the Carolina Panthers, I would enjoy to see Bryce Young and Ted McMillan get it going. It's just it's hard for me based on what I've seen this year. I was excited. My second string fandom was like feeling really good last year with the Bryce Young emergence, but it feels like a regression year for our guy. But best of luck to
Maybe.
you on the 49.5. I hit a Panthers over last week. Join me. Join me on
Yeah.
that.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
All right, that's going to do it for us. If you made it through the whole video, thank you. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell. It helps the channel out. Question of the day for the audience. Do you think Bryce Young makes it through this season as the starting quarterback of the Panthers? I have officially staked my claim here and planted my flag. I don't think he makes it through the season. That injury doesn't count. That don't go in the comments and say, well, I think he gets injured. Like, okay. Like, I'm asking about like a Dave Canales pulls him because he's so bad. I think it happens. Maybe not this week though, but I think it's coming. What do you think, man?
To me, dude, like I told you, it's been like my big theme this year because it keeps coming up. I don't think we properly appraise what losing multiple offensive linemen does to an offense. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
like, dude, they've been without their big guard, Hunt, and they lost, I believe, a tackle. Both are on IR. And now they lost their center in this one. When you're playing without 60% of your O line, like I'm sure Canal is when they're watching film, sees that. And again, for the most part, when Bryce has gotten the ball out this year, it's been to the right guy and they've been catchable targets. So like I don't know how much of that do you put it because he's also made insane plays. Like the stupid fumbles and horrific turnovers. He's had a few really bad plays this year. But for the most part, like I've seen mid-level quarterback play. What I haven't seen was what we saw in the last 5 games last year, and that's kind of why I'm freaked out. I thought that the Bryce Young that we saw last year was going to roll over to the. Remember, he took the Eagles down to the wire. like almost upset the Eagles at the end of the season. The Super Bowl champion would be Super Bowl champion Eagles, you know. And so
Mm-hmm.
to me, like I would say that that's where I'm at. Is I very much noticed that Bryce Young did not show up this year. I just have a really hard time parsing out, is that because 60% of their O line, 40 to 60% of their O line hasn't been playing all year, you know? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. That's really a hard thing for me to, like, I would have to be watching the all 22 and taking notes on it week in and week out to tell you, well, what's really going on under the hood here. I've seen some bad plays from Bryce, but most of what I've seen, and do remember, I have watched every Panthers offensive snap this year because of Ted McMillan. I'm so invested. I have 75% roster exposure in redraft. I have watched every every Panthers snap, and it's hard for me to. I don't really have a strong opinion on that. But I mean, for Ted McMillan, like just hitting the fast forward on his fantasy production, I would love Andy Dalton doing a little AJ Green throwback with Tedero McMillan and Andy Dalton. That would be fun for me.
If Andy Dalton gets there, I think it'll be an NFL record for the most like ginger quarterbacks that are starting in one season with
Yeah,
Carson Wentz and Cooper Rush and Dalton. All
yeah.
right, we'll catch you guys next week for the free agent episode.